Hoping that this doesn't run through the rest of the power, we now make ourselves polonium, which goes into there. Hello everybody and welcome back to some more FTB NeoTech. Today, we are going to be making ourselves some antimatter because in the last video, I had established that I want to try getting the replicator as soon as I possibly can, which will allow me to start replicating things. But for us to get that, we need this thing called the ultimate singularity, which will take antimatter. And antimatter is going to be a whole process, which you may or may not be able to see from the thumbnail, as it is going to be a multi-block structure. This multi-block structure is known as the SPS. For us to be able to make this thing though, we're first going to need several components for us to make this. The first thing we're going to need, and the most difficult, is going to be the HDPE sheets. Now these things are not going to be too difficult, as once we get the HDPE pellets, these are EMCable. But before we can get that, we're going to need to get a whole thing with substrate and biofuel. But fortunately, we should only need to be making one of those things, so it's not difficult. So starting with the biofuel, how do we make that? We can actually make it from various things, actually. Now, if I have seeds, that'll be able to get me the correct amount. So melon seed. Does a melon seed, it does make 2 biofuel. That's good, because I already have the machines I'm going to need for this thing set up right over here. We just need to go ahead and throw this baby right here into our crusher. It'll take it a little bit, but once that's done, it'll then move over here into this pressurized reaction chamber. So there it goes, right out into here. Now, unfortunately, this is not the end of this part, because for us to be able to get the substrate, which is the next part, we need to have some water in this as well as hydrogen. But it needs to be the mechanism version of hydrogen, so just utilizing the other hydrogen isn't going to work. And we're actually going to run into this problem again with the substrate to HDPE, because that's going to need normal oxygen. The mechanism hydrogen and mechanism oxygen. Where can I get that? Ah, yes. Even now, this thing is still useful, because now we'll be able to get hydrogen and oxygen from this thing. So let's just go ahead, plop one on this side for our hydrogen, plop one on this side for our oxygen, and then watch as it fills up once again. That should not be a problem. This should already be more than enough for this stuff, and in fact, it may end up being too much. I don't know. I may not be able to get the stuff back out. I mean, there is like a thing in Mechanism that lets me take stuff out. I think it was called this thing right here, the gouge dropper. It's actually pretty cheap. Alrighty, I got the water. So now for our first part, we just need to go ahead, pump this. All right, well, apparently a bucket didn't work either, so I'm just gonna go ahead and then utilize a tank for this. There we go, now that's in there. And then after that, we just need to go ahead and then take our hydrogen and then pump that one inside as well. So this one should be the hydrogen one. There we go. But this is not going to accept that because now it's configured to water. Oh, wait, also, I'm noticing apparently these fluid pipes actually don't connect to this at all. Huh. Okay, then, well, could I connect that right up there? And then is there like a thing? Yes, there is. And then I can have auto eject to, wait, it was already on. Oh, because that is input. We need that to be output. And there we go. Now it works. And now we get ourselves our substrate. Now comes the fun part, because we need to take these stuff back out of there. But clearly that does not work, which is where the dipper comes in. So now we can actually get the stuff back out. Alrighty, now we just want to go ahead, move this tank over here. That way we can go ahead and throw the stuff back into there. And there we go. Now we can do the same thing, but this time with the oxygen being the source.
A few moments later.
So now we can go ahead, take this thingy right over into here, deposit our ethylene, and now we should be able to put the substrate. Yes, we can. But it got disconnected. Let's go ahead and fix that. Alrighty. Now it is all functioning as it is properly intended. The tank has disappeared. There it is. But there we go. And it actually gives us the mechanism ethylene. Very good. We don't want that though. So let's just go ahead and take this back, and then we get our HDPE pellets. Let's just go ahead then, throw this right here, and then, okay, throw it right there, and then throw it right here. I don't know why it wasn't showing up then. Okay, normally when you put the thing there, it gives you the actual item, but apparently it doesn't work here. Okay, well, now we just go ahead, throw all of these right here in our enrichment chamber, and then this should give us, getting rid of every other process here because we don't need those anymore, our sheets. So now with these sheets, we can make the first component in the SPS, the HDPE sheet. No, the SPS casing. I completely backtrack completely, but we still need 2 more ingredients. The other is a plutonium battery. Now, if we go ahead and look inside of here, I do already have plenty of plutonium, and if we actually go ahead and then find the battery, because I had made this previously. Okay, apparently there's other things. I can't see back there because of my mic. It's really not that difficult for me to...
Are you sure about that?
I may need to retract that statement. It's not that difficult for me to make under certain circumstances that some of you may or may not know. But that's neither here nor there. We already got one, so that's already part of it. The last thing we need to make before we can make this SPS casing, though, is going to be polonium. Now, polonium is actually ridiculously easy for me to get. We just need to go ahead and then get myself some of the plutonium dust, some of this tiny dust right here. Just grab 3 of that, and then dark matter. Now, for those of you who don't know, dark matter is something from equivalent exchange. It's a process to get, but it's all EMCable, so it's very easy. Just a block diamond and then add an ounce of fuel, which you get from Mobius fuel, which you get from coal. Whole process that involves the Philosopher's Stone. I did all that in the past, so that way I could end up getting myself this Life Stone, which for a while now has been feeding me and regenerating my hearts. I have not needed to eat for a long time now. It actually helped to keep me alive during a recent weather fight. So now we just throw those together, and then we get ourselves our polonium. I just need to be able to scrounge out from back in here. There we go. Now we got that. Alrighty, now having made the rest of the sheets, now we can just go ahead, combine all of this stuff together with our plutonium battery and make ourselves the SPS casing. If we actually go ahead and then right click this thing, we actually find a little thing right in here with a bunch of specs for all of this. Now, this thing can go up to a pretty insane amount. Like, it can get really bad, where you would just have a bunch of the ports and absolutely none of the structural glass, which is a bunch of placement things, but it's not hard to get. It's just steel and a bunch of glass. Very easy stuff for me to get. I don't need to worry too much about that one. But at the bare minimum of all this, we're going to need 3 of these SPS ports, which each one of those is 4, so that's quite a lot. Then we also need 60 of these SPS casings, which is quite a lot of this other stuff, which, as we've established with the plutonium battery, is actually going to take me quite a bit of stuff to do. So, for those of you who don't know, this is where I start cheating. So for those of you who don't know, there's a little bit of a glitch in this mod pack. I don't know if it's this one alone, but with the shulker box from Sophisticated Storage, if we just right click an item into this and then place it down, it doubles for some reason. I couldn't tell you why, but yeah. So I only do this for things that take an excessive amount of time, but yeah, this is what we do. We just do this and it just keeps on doubling even more. I will be doing this once we need to make the antimatter, because there is going to be a reason that will be further explained once we reach that point. But just keep this little process in the back of y'all minds. So there we go. Now we got ourselves some SPS casing. Now we can go ahead and then make ourselves our SPS ports. There we go. We should only need this amount. It shouldn't need to be more than that. So then after that, the last thing we need to make is the supercharged laser coil. So I should have everything. Do I not have copper? Because I know I had everything else. I made the other laser earlier before I started recording. So it's like, because I mean, this thing, it's a whole process of stuff. And like, I'm not going to need that laser unless I decided to do a fusion reactor from Mechanism, which I will not be. So there we go. Now we got the charged coil, and we also got ourselves a bunch of SPS ports. After that, I just need to go ahead and then make myself a bunch of steel and also a bunch of this glass. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that real quickly, and we can be right back after that. But I'm also going to want to go ahead and make this thing here called the chemical oxidizer, which is a very simple recipe. I should already have all that. So I'll come back with that as well, and then I can explain the whole process.
Later.
We've gathered up everything. I've got the chemical oxidizer right over here, and I'll explain why I need this very soon. For the meantime, though, we need to build our SPS. Now, normally you would actually end up building this on top of a mechanism fission reactor, but that's kind of been disabled. So yeah, we're actually building this thing on the ground for once, which should hopefully make this a little easier. I don't know for certain, but it should hopefully work out well enough. So if I remember this correctly, I should need to build out a little thing like this, and then we just build, I believe it's like that. Yes, that should hopefully be good. I need to build this up one more. Yep, there we go. That should be good. So then after that, we just replicate the same shape all around like this. Yes, that's correct.
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
Alrighty, having turned the day back on, and also having dealt with a little bit of a yapper, we can now continue. So, with this outer shape built like this, now we can go ahead and then fill this spot in with structural glass. Now, normally what I would do is I would have one of the ports be here on the bottom, but since this is all being built on the ground, I'm actually going to have it along the wall, which should hopefully make it look a little bit better. And actually, I'll go ahead and put that down right here. That way it can be as close to the oxidizer as possible. After that, how this thing is going to work is we now need to replicate this shape across the entirety of this whole thing. So if I go ahead, stop! Okay, I was making a small bit of a mistake. I was trying to build up the casings from these parts. No, it's just these bottom ones that you build up from, and then like I said before, you replicate the bottom's basic shape all the way up, making sure that there's no exposed glass. So all of the same shape on all the same sides. It's very, very easy for me to get. And then once you get to this top point right up here, you just go ahead and then fill it in with the not reactor glass, the shape glass like this. And yeah, and this, of course, I'm gonna run a little bit low because some of these do need to become the ports, but that's fine. We can fix that later. I don't want that port to be there, actually, but we can fix that in a moment. And then after that, you just fill in these corners right here. And then this would be done. So now we just need to decide where I want the rest of these ports to be. So now after that, we can just go ahead and put the rest of this like this. And there we go. The SPS is now completed. Now, I want to go ahead and break this thing down again because I forgot I need to go ahead and put in our supercharged coil right into there. And then when I find my way out, is this not the way out? Like, I thought it was right there. Okay, it is right there. Okay, now it's completed again. So now this should be correct for the import for this one, because I went ahead and also grabbed myself a bunch of the cables as well. And then power will now go into this baby. Okay, that is good. It should be fine now. It's actually going to hold quite a lot of power. So I'm glad that I did something I said I would do when I first set up my diesel generators. I set up a lot more of them. So hopefully this will help us with the massive amounts of power generation. So, because yes, this is going to use a lot of power. So after that, we want to go ahead and take our pressure tube, which will help transfer gases, and then move that over to there. And then with this plutonium, hoping that this doesn't run through the rest of the power, we now make ourselves polonium, which goes into there. It shoots out a little laser. It's way cooler when the laser's in the center because it actually looks like a giant light bulb. But this will slowly take in a bunch of power, and then once this process is done, it will convert all of it into antimatter. If I am correct, I believe that an antimatter, that 1 millibucket of it will take 1,000 of it. So yeah, this is actually going really slowly. Is power not going in? Power's going in, it's just not going in fast enough.
3 hours later.
Alrighty, the antimatter is finally ready, which means now I can go ahead and do my sneaky little trick. So let's go ahead and then transfer the antimatter into this tank. And all we gotta do is, remember how I said earlier this would come into play? We just make our shulker shells and then transfer it over to here. And then after that, if I can go ahead and have a look at my configurator. Okay, so only one side is set to that. So that's the front. So then we want this side to be output, and then we have that empty automatically. Okay, there we go. And let's actually make sure that we have that always like this, because the spare tanks that I can make are just going to end up going into the garbage. So you pretty much get the basic idea. Rinse and repeat.
Eventually.
Alrighty, I got enough of the antimatter now. It took me a little bit, but now we just need to go ahead, plop that right there, and then on the right side have that be input. We want this one to actually be energy, and then we should actually also need to change this side as well to output. That way that is not output. Alrighty, and now it's all going in, and then once this goes down and coalesces, we now get our antimatter pellet. Now, fortunately for me, I should only need these 2 antimatters right here, because we're only going to need one of these ultimate singularities for our replicator. So that won't be a problem. But with that, that should actually be the end of the mechanism line. Pretty much everything else is just a bunch of stuff that I could do, but I really don't have a need for it anymore. So that is pretty good. So now we could get the singularity, which means we are one step closer from the replicator. Now, that being said, me rushing at the replicator isn't actually going to change very much. Because if we go ahead and then look into this final quest line, once we actually get our singularities going, and once we actually had that, if I can make more of these singularities in it, it's not going to be much of a problem. And in all likelihood, on the video that we get it, which should hopefully be the next one, it may very well end up being the last video of NeoTech. So next video may end up being the end, and that is pretty big. So because of that, before we end off this video, we got our antimatter, but I want to set up for us to be able to use it for its intended purpose, and that is going to come from us making the singularity. Now, I could make 2 of these for right now, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and stick with 1. That way we will get the basic idea as to how it's going to be done. For us to make this singularity, we need 64 nukes and an ultra dense metal ball. Now, I should already have almost everything I need for this. I just need some iridium, which I do have, so that way I can go ahead and turn this into an iridium plate. But I need to mix one of these for some reason, because you can't just get that on its own. Oh no. You also need to get yourself some blast-proof alloy. And then after that, we're just going to need 4, 8, 12, 16 tungsten plates. Alrighty, got the tungsten. So now we just need to go ahead and throw that into our compressor. There we go. And then in our packer, we can go ahead and combine our blast-proof alloy with our iridium, which will make the mixed iridium, which for some reason is in fact edible. Nope. Wait, this isn't edible. Oh wait, no, it is. It's edible. I don't know why it's edible. It gives you so much, but it's too expensive for me to eat this, actually. It's like, I can't just do that. Ugh. Either way, though, now we just need to go ahead and then grab ourselves our industrial TNT, which I don't actually have any more of. I already got the TNT, so now we just go ahead and mix both those guys together. That should get us that. So now I just need to go ahead and mix my 4 tungsten. What? Is the tungsten not done yet? Oh, it's not done yet. Okay. Well, good thing I have myself a handy dandy temporal pouch. That way we haven't got to wait for that. Okay. Then we can just go ahead and make ourselves the last one of these. And then we make ourselves the ultra dense metal ball combined with 64 nukes, which is ridiculously expensive. We should now have ourselves inside of here the singularity. There we go. Now, because of how much is in this thing, doop. There we go. We got 2 of these now. So now that we have 2 of these, we can go ahead and take one of these off to go and make something else that's going to be in preparation, because this is going to generate something very, very slowly, and it is going to be called UU matter. This must be generated inside of an electrolyzer, just a free one. So we can go ahead and plop that into here, and then after a little while, very slowly, it will generate it. However, I am noticing that it is not generating it, which means there's something wrong. Ah, yes. Okay, I've encountered this issue before, but apparently, for some reason, some of these things require upgrades, so they need to be at a certain power level for it to work. So I can just go ahead and throw in a highly advanced one right into here, and then it should work now. Okay, there we go. I had to put it back in, but now it's working. Very slowly, it will make us this UU matter. It doesn't consume the singularity. I learned that, which is really good, but it only makes 1 UU matter per generation. That's not so good. And we're gonna need a crap ton of it, as for each of these quantum upgrades, we're gonna need 50 buckets of it. And we're going to need 1 of those for our replicator, and 500 of the UU matter. But anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our last NeoTech video. Bye-bye!